Oh sure, we've been down this road before, but not this stretch. In past shows, we traveled down Highway 1 through Big Sur. But on this trip, we're going south of Sur. From San Simeon to San Luis Obispo to Pismo Beach. Come along as we herd cattle on a historic seaside ranch, which is getting noticed for its natural grass-fed beef. And you'll never guess the famous family who put its brand on those cows. And a new wine label. Cheers. We'll visit rustic beach towns. And we'll have tea at a tea cozy. We explore the quaint village famous for its unique glassware. Come take a spin in a Dune buggy. Or just relax and take in the Central Coast for all its beauty. Luxuriate in natural mineral waters. Along the way, we'll show you places to stay, eat, and drink. All that and much more. I'm Brian Hackney. It's all happening as Eye on the Bay takes the show on the road south of Big Sur. But we begin here at a literal landmark. That landmark, the Piedras Blancas Lighthouse. Built in 1875, it's open to the public twice a week for tours. We got to get to the top of the lighthouse. And man, from that vantage point, it seems like you can see forever. And while technology has outpaced the usefulness of that lighthouse, Piedras Blancas is not the only endangered species on this stretch of the coast. Just a half-mile south is an elephant seal sanctuary. Humans flock here by the hundreds to watch these federally protected sea beasts frolic in sea foam and sunbathe on the sand. Just a few miles south of those elephant seals, you'll take a little bit of a turn off Highway 1 and end up here in tiny downtown San Simeon. I mean, this is it. It's been here since the Civil War, and the amazing thing is, it hasn't changed much. And yet tiny San Simeon was the epicenter of a worldwide empire, one that began as a modest family business, and one that still exists today on the family ranch.
We're gonna move these steers up around.
So I'm herding cattle with a guy named Steve.
Okay, go to your right a little bit over here.
A ranch hand named Cliff.
Hey Cliff, can you hold him?
With help from June, Rosie, and Chaw.
Fortunately, the dogs make our life quite a bit easier.
Everyone's on a first-name basis, even the cows.
Come on, Ferdinand, get up there.
On Steve's scenic family ranch.
It's tough to get tired of that view.
It runs for miles along the central California coastline. Steve's great-great-grandfather, first name George, made a fortune in mining and bought this spread in San Simeon from a Spanish rancher right after the Civil War. The family has raised beef here ever since.
Hey.
The cattle fatten up on grass descended from grass the Spanish fed their cattle way back in the 1600s. George built a stately Victorian house on the property. Other than that, for centuries, little changed on George's Piedras Blancas rancho. That is, until the next generation came along.
And of course he had one son, and his son was W.R. and
W.R., the family seldom uses just his first name, spent a lot of time here from boyhood to adulthood.
It's a classic because he used to come up here and camp, and they called it Camp Hill.
One day, while camping atop Camp Hill, W.R. got an idea and sent off a note to an architect friend of his.
It said, I'm tired of tents and I'm tired of camping. I'd like to build something a little more substantial.
A little more substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And this is what W.R. meant when he talked about something a little more substantial.
Well, that's the castle, the big house.
If you haven't guessed by now, WR is William Randolph Hearst of Hearst Castle fame. Steve Hearst is his great-grandson.
It is quite a house. I think there's 165 rooms.
WR, who had since extended the family fortune into a newspaper and media empire, built this spread to entertain Hollywood elite and world leaders. Today, the state of California owns the palace Orson Welles supposedly lampooned in the film classic Citizen Kane. Each year, hundreds of thousands of tourists come to visit the place known around the globe as Hearst Castle. But funny thing, as far as anyone can remember, Hearst never called it a castle.
No, he referred to it as the ranch. It just happened to be the house on the ranch.
Back then, it was a working ranch. Today, it's a working ranch. Steve's family still owns the land, a lot of land, around the castle.
As far as I can see, is this all your land?
It is all the Hearst Ranch, yeah.
82,000 acres.
Right a little to your right.
Much of it for cattle grazing,
Go a little to your left.
to raise beef.
We are, if not the largest, one of the top suppliers of grass-fed beef that is not finished on anything but grass.
Quietly, the Hearst family has become a leading producer of naturally raised meat.
People are concerned about where their food comes from, how it is handled, how it is raised. Natural, no growth hormones, no antibiotics.
And the Hearsts are in the wine business, too. All this is a departure from the family's traditional line of work and perceived luxury. In fact, when the Hearst family comes to the ranch, they don't stay up at the castle. They can't, but rather at the bottom of the hill in this modest bunkhouse, or George's Victorian. The family's compound is private and hidden from public view, and yes, some things will always stay hidden.
And get this, just off the beach is William Randolph Hearst's warehouse.
Warehouses, actually. This is where WR stored his treasured art from around the world, like the warehouse fictionalized in Citizen Kane, you know, the one with that mythical sled. Rosebud. Just 2 days before our cameras showed up, Steve took all of WR's keepsakes away for safekeeping because, he says, that's not the Hearst legacy anyway.
It's the ranch.
At the end of the day, it's still the ranch.
Long before he wrote that note to an architect with the castle idea, a young WR wrote a note to his mother.
And he said, Mother, I love the ranch so much. If I had a month to spend anywhere in the world, I would spend it right here.
Do you feel that way?
Yes. There's no question about it.
Now, do you have to be Dave Stoelk and have famous friends like Steve Hearst in order to sample Hearst beef? The answer is no. You can come down to San Simeon at the historic Sebastian's store. I mean, look at this place from the outside. It was built in 1852. It is the oldest building and continuous operation on the north coast of San Luis Obispo County. The post office is cool. It's right back there. Hello, post office. And then you can come out and sample some of Hearst's best, not only the tri-tip, but also, Lindsay, would you mind? I mean, they've got this whole winery, wine tasting room set up. And so the Hearsts not only have the beef, they've got the wine, thank you so much, and it's a great way to spend the day. And we're going to continue spending ours as Eye on the Base tour of Big Sur South continues after a break. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as we continue to head on the road south of Big Sur. And you can't visit this part of the state without at least mentioning the #1 tourist destination in this part of the country. No doubt you've been here before, and we've at least got to cover the quick facts about Hearst Castle. Begun in 1919, William Randolph Hearst's La Cuesta Encantada, or the Enchanted Hill, was still under construction when he died in 1951. The family lent it to the California State Parks a few years later, which is why you can now poke around the grounds like so many of Hearst's famous guests. By the way, the deed of trust allows the Hearst family to swim in either of the castle's opulent pools once the tourists have left for the day. And speaking of not-so-humble abodes, we found a great place to stay while in San Simeon. It may not be a hilltop castle, but it does have a great view. Now, the Cavalier is a Best Western, which means it has affordable rates. It's a bargain when you consider the aforementioned scenery. And some of the rooms have a cozy fireplace to fend off any chill should the fog creep up to your patio. Now it's back onto Highway 1 South on our way to Cambria. Cambria is just about 6 miles south of San Simeon. If you've never been here, this is a cute little town. It's kind of a Carmel South, but not as cold as Carmel. And it has that sort of architectural charm, that artistic charm as well, and whimsy. Nitwit Ridge is the anti-Hearst castle. In 1928, a man named Arthur Harold Beale, or Captain Nitwit as his neighbors knew him, began cobbling together cobblestones and shells, beer cans, and other sundries to fashion the house. It took him 51 years. Captain Nitwit has long since left the building, but someone still lives there. Call ahead to arrange a tour. Cambria is crammed full of curiosities, art shops, restaurants. But my favorite stop of all is just off Main Street, down this little lane, and you pull up in front of a quaint little, what looks like an English cottage. You have got to stop here, because this place actually ended up as a question on Jeopardy!
A tea room in Cambria, California is named for this kind of teapot cover, and it sells them too. Denise.
What's a cozy?
The tea cozy, to be precise.
Here we are, folks. There's the royal tea for 3.
A few years ago, Barry Went and his wife Leanne came to Cambria specifically to settle into the kettle business. They opened a ye old tea shop.
Our thought process was create a place where people felt like they were coming to visit Barry and Leanne for tea, coming to our home for tea.
They serve traditional tea go-withs, homemade biscuits, sweets, scones, little sandwiches, and other British fare. It's as if the entire place was steeped in an English village and then brought to Cambria to cool. The tea cozy has a royal, loyal following.
It's almost become synonymous with a visit to Cambria. You know, we are that little pocket of escape.
Even the local bikers come tea time.
And they'll pull in with their Harleys rumbling at top notch, you know, and come in their leather chaps and full-on gear, and it's quite a sight, believe me.
Just up the road, we roll into another bucolic beach town and visit the Central Coast's newest B&B. And farther down the coast, an affordable hotel room with $1 million view. As our trek south of Sur continues. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as we continue on the road south of Big Sur. Our next stop, just a few miles down the road from Cambria, and maybe you've seen it as you've passed south on Highway 1 and never really stopped. But haven't you always wanted to find harmony? I mean, that's the name of the town. It's a cool little place. Population only 18. There was a time when this entire town was for sale, and it really is a gem. At least when you go inside the Harmony Glass Works, it seems like a gem. Look at this. Much of the glasswork at Harmony Glassworks is blown right here in the shop by owner Eric Dandurand and his assistants. What different sorts of things do you make?
Oh gosh, it'd be easy to tell you what I don't make, I guess. You know, just about any shape you can think of, from drinking cups to lamps, you know, everything in between, bowls, platters, plates.
And customers get a free show. And it's all done, of course, in perfect harmony.
The interesting thing about Harmony, this entire town was for sale, right?
That's right.
The entire town is owned by a corporation, which has turned it into an artist colony. Oh, and don't forget the little chapel where better to begin a marriage than in total harmony. Just a few miles south of Harmony is our next stop,
Cayucos.
Cayucos is a beach town out of time, untouched by fancy resorts and chain stores. Once in Cayucos, we check in at our charming and historic B&B, the Cass House.
Yeah, it's just 2 years old. So the restaurant and the B&B, just 2 years.
It's a new B&B run by husband and wife innkeepers Grace and Jensen Lorenzen. But the Cass House itself has been around as long as Cayucos.
Basically, Captain James Cass founded the town of Cayucos, and he built this house in 1867.
It's been repurposed as a 5-room inn.
All of the rooms have their own bathrooms. There's a little bit more privacy, I think, than some B&Bs.
And it's all surrounded by lush gardens where Jensen harvests fresh ingredients for that evening's meal. He is the executive chef.
And we have a full-time restaurant that's open to the public as well, not just our own guests.
Yeah, like generally speaking, it's just a more personal experience.
Yeah.
It's like you're coming to somebody's home and the people just happen to work there.
Stay tuned. There's more road ahead of us south on Highway 1. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as I take my trusty 1964 MGB south along Highway 1, beginning at San Simeon, down through Cambria, and into the friendly little beach town of Cayucos.
All right, now it's time to head out of Cayucos, just a few miles south on Highway 1, to a town that has its own pet rock. Next stop, Morro Bay. Oh yes, the rock. It is iconic of Morro Bay. It's beautiful too. I mean, it's the last in a chain of old volcanic plugs that line the west side of Highway 1 from here to San Luis Obispo. They call it the Seven Sisters. And it really is part of the topography that make this part of the coast just special.
We'll visit the other sisters of San Luis Obispo County later, but this sister, Morro Rock, guards the entrance to a beautiful bay. And we found a great place to stay with a view of Morro Bay's signature landmark.
And we're right on the water. You can't get any closer to the water than this.
Patty Christian is manager of the Estero Inn.
We only have 8 rooms, so that makes it very intimate and special.
Estero is affordable, and it offers birthday and anniversary specials with complimentary champagne and chocolate. And there's another place you have to visit in Morro Bay. This place, Dorn's Breakwater Cafe. After all, just about everybody else has been to Dorn's. Just look at the wall. The seafood restaurant has been attracting Hollywood types since it opened in 1942.
There are celebrities that still come to Dorn's.
It's time for the Jack LaLanne Show from Hollywood.
The San Francisco native literally invented the exercise show.
And up, and down, and up.
When were you on television for the first time?
Oh, in the 50s.
Back in the 50s?
Longest, the first health and fitness show ever in the history.
Well, I remember watching you very much.
Oh,
and you know,
I spent a lot of time on the floor with their mother.
Really?
Wow, if that doesn't work, believe me. Woo!
Jack, now 96 years old, lives in Morro Bay, but he hasn't retired here. You may have seen Jack and his wife Elaine selling his famous juicer. How are you feeling?
Feel me.
You feel good to me.
Nothing happened.
I wouldn't want to.
You're awful cute.
Thank you.
Jack first came to Morro Bay 22 years ago when he visited an old friend.
I came up to visit him.
Yeah.
That did it.
That's it.
If you don't like Morro Bay, you don't like sex or money.
Well, Mr. LaLanne, you look great. It's a real honor.
Get this, Mr. LaLanne.
Oh, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Jack, it's nice to meet you. Thank you so
way
much.
over already?
We are done. Yes, it's a short show.
Hey,
Thank
goodbye,
you, sir.
folks.
Goodbye.
Remember,
Goodbye, folks.
Anything in life is possible. Make it happen.
Good advice. Well, we're out of time, but not out of the road, south of Big Sur. Tomorrow night, Dave Stoelk visits one of the wackiest inns in the world, and we'll get into some hot water before hitting the beach and the sand. That's all tomorrow as the road south of Big Sur continues. I'm Brian Hackney for Dave Stoelk. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Welcome to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as we continue on the road south of Big Sur. And this is where we left you last night at the Rock in Morro Bay. We've already visited the castle at San Simeon.
We worked our way down scenic Highway 1 in my trusty 64 MGB. Along the way, stopping at rustic villages and cruising classic beach towns. Our adventure south of Sur continues. First, we go back to school in San Luis Obispo.
We'll also see why this room was critical to the launching of one of the most famous students at Cal Poly.
We'll also
luxuriate in natural mineral waters. Dave Stoelk will be doing something on a beach that you can do nowhere else in California. Now it's time to visit the crown jewel of the Central Coast, which will be familiar to anybody who actually went to Cal Poly, like me. Ladies and gentlemen, San Luis Obispo.
Ah yes, my alma mater, California State Polytechnic University at San Luis Obispo, aka Cal Poly.
Cal Poly now, are we still pretty much kicking everybody's butt in engineering?
Pretty much. Yeah, we were ranked second behind Navy and Army.
Oh, Navy and Army.
Well, Stacia Momberg is biased. She's the spokesperson for California's largest state university, and I'm biased because I majored in engineering at Cal Poly. Double majored, actually. Physics, too. But my real passion burned quietly in building number 26.
Hi, I'm Brian Hackney, and I'm Special Programming Director at KCPR. I have a staff of about 5 or 6 people, and we take programs that come on reel-to-reel tape like this one and put them on tape cartridges.
I caught the broadcasting bug and worked at KCPR, the student-run radio station, which is still on the air. And one of the disc jockeys I worked alongside was a guy named Al Yankovic.
At the time, I was pursuing an amazingly mediocre academic career in the physics department. At the same time, Weird Al was an architecture major. He had that very precise architectural block handwriting. He was a great architecture student. And at the time, yes, he was weird.
I was in the studio when Weird Al recorded his first hit, a parody of the Knack's My Sharona called My Bologna.
Critical to the success of that Capitol record was this room. Yes, the men's room on the second floor of the Graphic Arts Building. It is famous. Why? Because of the echo. When My Bologna was recorded, they put a microphone in this bathroom in order to pick up the reverb.
San Luis Obispo also piqued my interest in geology, and it's because of these peaks looming over the campus, ancient volcanoes.
So this area was volcanic how long ago?
Long time ago, about 20 to 25 million years ago.
As Cuesta College geology instructor Jeff Grover explains, these distinctive cones that stretch up and down San Luis Obispo County have a nickname.
Well, they're known as the Seven Sisters, the Nine Sisters.
Depends on how you count.
Exactly.
Earlier, we met one of those sisters, beautiful Morro Rock.
San Luis is also famous because of this building, the Motel Inn. It was where the word motel was invented and the first time it was ever used to indicate lodging. Now you see it in a few other places.
But no building is as old as this one. Mission San Luis Obispo was founded in 1772. It's the reason the town exists in the first place, and it's still a hub of activity like concerts. Downtown San Luis Obispo, at a weekly event, is where I bumped into an old college buddy, Paul Jacobus.
This is a San Luis Obispo Farmers Market.
When does it happen?
Happens every Thursday night, and this is what it is. It's a lot of people come out. It's a blast.
This is one of the original farmers markets in the country. In addition to flowers and produce, businesses along Higuera spill out onto the sidewalk.
There is one line that is particularly long at the farmers market. Some of these people have come all the way from...
Drove all the way from Bakersfield just for this.
No, from Bakersfield.
Yep.
For McClintock's Barbecue.
I need a corn.
Higher corn! Higher corn!
And they put on quite a show.
1, 2, 3.
God bless America, land that I love.
How you guys doing?
Fire cheeseburger!
Man, those guys work.
They do work pretty hard.
We can't pass this up.
It's Bubblegum Alley.
People from all over the world come here for the express purpose of sticking their gum on the wall.
Apparently so. It looks like a lot of them have been doing it.
No one knows who was the first to affix their gum to this wall, but suffice it to say, the tradition stuck.
It's got people's initials, it's got business cards, it's got messages of hope. So, great produce, great food, nice people, and bubblegum alley. This is a great farmer's market.
My home sweet home.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do it when you're in San Luis Obispo.
Come on up, folks. Let's get it going.
Still ahead, Dave Stoelk checks into the Madonna Inn and checks out the world's most famous bathroom.
Anyone in there? Hello?
And people come from all over the world to see it. Stay tuned as we continue. Eye on the Bay gets into some pretty hot water after a break. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as we continue on our trip south of Big Sur. And here in San Luis Obispo, you will notice a name all over the place. Madonna Plaza, Madonna Road. Named for Alex Madonna, who once owned literally most of this town. His most prized possession is over at the base of that distant hill. Ladies and gentlemen, the Madonna Inn, as you may never have seen it before. Here's Dave Stoelk.
The Madonna Inn is what happened when a gal named Gotti met a guy named Kitschy and they had a love child. And they consummated the whole thing in a room that looked something like this.
Or this.
It's kind of quirky. I mean, some of our rooms are really fun and quirky.
Janet Tornquist manages Madonna's 109 rooms, no two rooms alike.
But it came from a man with a huge imagination.
Local businessman Alex Madonna found himself on the road a lot.
And he would stay in little motor lodges and eat in truck stops. And he said, hey, one of these days I'm going to build a beautiful inn with an elaborate dining room where people can just come and enjoy themselves.
In the 1950s, Madonna built his inn, but instead of assigning numbers, he gave each room a name with corresponding themes. There's the Safari Room, the Traveler's Suite, the Barrel of Fun Suite.
You could take a trip to Mexico, you don't even need a passport.
Well, not to get into the old Mexico suite anyway. Want to travel to other exotic locales? Just go to the front desk and buy a postcard. There's one for each room.
You know, Caveman is probably the most publicized and the most well-known.
We couldn't get into the Caveman room. It was booked, but here's the postcard anyway. Each suite is decorated with unique features, which is what guests want.
They don't want to stay at a Hilton or a Marriott.
They'd rather stay in the Bridal Falls suite, where you can shower under a waterfall.
room service for a hotel like this has to be a little different. I mean, you have rocks to clean.
Yes.
Anyone in there?
Water features, as the front desk calls them, are popular at Madonna, but none more popular than this water feature just outside the inn's restaurant.
Electric eye urinal.
Girls, this is how it works.
Tourists, men and women, often visit the men's room.
You like that? A little privacy here, people.
Now, if privacy is what you want, then you only need to check into a red shag carpeted lair known as
the love nest, of course.
Very romantic. Probably had a lot of proposals on that staircase that goes up from inside. We have a lot of the people that were conceived here come back as adults.
Oh, really?
So
it's the circle of love.
It is a circle of life.
The Madonna Inn isn't the only resort in town. Earlier, we studied the Central Coast's ancient volcanic peaks. Now, is there any fun that you can have with the remnants of this volcanism?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and I think you can sum up that fun in one word. Hot tubs. Well, that's two words. And this is one of the most popular places on the Central Coast to do them. The name of it? Sycamore Mineral Springs Resort. The same natural forces that formed the Sisters eons ago still heats water deep underground. And those waters are siphoned into these secluded hot tubs at this hillside resort, where visitors can soak in them by the hour. Or you can find tranquility in one of the resort's 72 rooms. Each comes with, you guessed it, a hot tub. Now that I've dried off, we've got to head just around the corner from Sycamore Mineral Springs and the gentrified little hamlet of Avila Beach after a break. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney as we continue on Highway 1 south of Big Sur. Next stop, Avila Beach. If you haven't been to Avila Beach in the last few years, then you haven't been to Avila Beach. The town was literally torn down 12 years ago, and this new one put up with a shiny new waterfront. But it still has the charm of a beach town, and speaking of charming beach towns. Just across the bay from Avila is world-famous Pismo Beach. Now this is yet another iconic beach town. And Pismo Beach lets you do something on their beach that you can do on no other California beach, as Dave Stoelk explains.
Well, for starters, this is the only beach in California with a speed limit. Just pay your $5 and you can drive your car onto the beach, known formally as the Oceano Dunes State Vehicular Recreation Area.
And it's the only place along the entire California coastline where you can do this. Dune buggy!
The state of California lets anyone take anything on wheels onto 1,500 acres of sand dunes, although
dune buggies are really designed for the dunes.
And Randy Jordan of Sun Buggy Fun Rentals will rent you one.
A dune buggy is unequivocally the safest way to see the dunes. We have 50,000 customers and 0 adolescent injuries. 2 pedals and a steering wheel, that's it.
Randy has 4-seat, even 8-seat dune buggies.
This Oceano Dunes is pristine, probably, if not one of the nicest places in the world to do this. It's the last place in California
By the way, this is the same stretch of sand where Cecil B. DeMille filmed his biblical epics. The Romans should have ditched their chariots and rented dune buggies.
Now that's the way to experience the beach.
Okay, now it's on to our final stop on Highway 1 South, or maybe not. As it turns out, my trusty 64 MGB isn't quite so trusty. Yes, the same car I had since I was a teen has let me down yet again.
Just gotta get this rotor off here. I think you'll find it's got a crack in it.
But it's also let me down some great roads, like Highway 1 south of Big Sur. Over 2 days, we visited with elephant seals, herded cattle on a scenic seaside ranch, stopped by a castle, and stayed at some great places. From San Simeon to Pismo Beach and everything in between, we explored the beauty of California's Central Coast. Hope you do too.
Thanks for watching.